Welcome to Lean and Clean with Fitness Chef Christine. I'm Christine, your host, and today we're going to be talking yummy vegetables. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and had a fantastic vegetable dish? Maybe it's a side, maybe it's your main dish, but you're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Why are my vegetables at home so tasteless in comparison? The answer is fat. If you are not cooking yourself like a restaurant where they load up the butter and they load up the oil and it gets all happy in the oven, your vegetables are going to be a little bit more bland. So today, let's solve that problem. Without adding a ton of extra fat, we want to do those flavorful vegetables. So to a pan, which I actually recorded, but realized I wasn't actually recording, I cut up 2 bulbs of fennel and 1 whole red onion. But I'm going to show you what I did with that fennel since I accidentally didn't press record like a ding-a-ling. It happens sometimes. So I cut the bulbous part, as you would an onion, just in thick layers. But then we have these stalks, and we're gonna use these stalks. We're gonna take off the fronds, and we're gonna use those in a salad later. But you're just gonna come and cut that on the bias. And the reason I cut it on the bias is to get a little bit longer, thicker cuts so that they don't cook too quickly. Because if you're cooking them with the rounds, then you want it to cook about the same time. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. I put a little bit of extra virgin olive oil in there. So I'm gonna put some of this Greek extra virgin olive oil in. Not too much, but enough that you're gonna get it coated. Then we're gonna put some salt and pepper on there because we wanna season and season. That is part of the reason that our vegetables at restaurants taste so darn good, because they're so well seasoned. And if we miss that step, then obviously we're not gonna get the results that we want. So a little dash of kosher salt and some fresh ground pepper. Don't be afraid to season your vegetables. Listen, vegetables are wonderful. They're low in calories, high in fiber, they keep us full. You never heard of anybody getting obese eating a ton of vegetables. It just doesn't happen. So utilize that thought process and let's make them yummy. All right, we got some foil here. And I'm gonna cover this. Covering it. We're gonna pop that into a high heat oven, so it's 450 degrees until they're nice and soft. Then that's where the magic's gonna happen. We're gonna add to it so it's delicious. All right, popping that in. In the meantime, on our quest for lots of deliciousness, I have some carrots. Now, I bought these already cut. So you can buy them already cut up, and I parboiled them. So I boiled them for 6 minutes until they're just starting to get soft, but they're not mushy. That's what we want. And then we're gonna spritz them with some olive oil and some good kosher salt. And we're gonna put them in the air fryer to get nice and crunchy so that they taste like French fries. Trust me when I tell you they are really delicious. And because I'm so self-sacrificing, I'll taste test them for you. All right, so you've got them in there. We're gonna add a little bit. This time I'm gonna use a little bit of lemon olive oil. So I like that little bit of acidity in there. If I can find the, there it is. A little bit of lemon olive oil. I like that little bit of acidity with the carrots. And then I'm gonna go, but you could use regular, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna drizzle. And then I'm gonna add that kosher salt in there, which in the air fryer will probably blow all around and get all over them. All right, now, one thing you should know about me. I cook everything in the air fryer at the same temperature. It makes life so much easier. So mine only goes up to 390 degrees, so that's what I keep it on. And then I just vary the time, and it makes life so simple. I'm gonna pop these in there. We'll start about 10 minutes. We'll take a look. I want it to be crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. So here we go. All right, those are working. All right, next one up. We're gonna work on a cold broccoli salad. Now this is something I grew up with and I absolutely love, but it had a lot of mayonnaise in it. So I opted to swap out some of the mayonnaise for some Greek yogurt. So let me show you what that looks like. Let's start with the dressing for this broccoli salad. So traditionally, like I said, it was a mayonnaise-based dressing, but we're gonna sub out some of that mayonnaise for Greek yogurt. That is gonna up the protein and it's gonna be just as delicious. Okay, so we're gonna start out with a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt. I like to use my 1/4 cup ice cream scoop. It makes things a lot easier. Thankfully that dropped the right way. And when I get some mayo, I'm still going to use the mayo, but not quite as much. Now I like Duke's or Hellman's. or homemade is even better if you have the time. Obviously, the more that you can make stuff homemade, the more you can control what goes in it. Don't mind me, I appear to be dropping everything today. See if we can get this thing off. Pop that sucker out. There we go. Sometimes these things do not want to work with me. That's just how it goes some days. All right, measure that into here. I'll scoop it out. As this is real life, sometimes it doesn't want to come out. Good enough. We can adjust that as we go. Now we're going to put 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. I do really like to make sure that it has the mother included in it, so we'll use 3 capfuls of that one. 2 and 3. And then just like everything else, we make sure that we season it, and we're going to add some honey, about 3 tablespoons. There we go. And salt and pepper. And then we'll give it a little whiskey. That's whisks. Good whisk. And we'll whisk that together until it's nice and emulsified. And nice and smooth. See, it's nice and smooth now. I'll give it a little taste. It's over here, a little taste. See if we need to adjust anything. Oh, that's pretty good. All right, we're in good shape there. So now we'll go ahead and we'll add our broccoli. So for this one, I usually like just to use the crowns, but I will chop up the crowns a bit because I don't like them to be too chunky. I'm not one of these people that really like it super chunky. So we're just gonna go ahead and give them a rough chop. It doesn't have to be tiny, but I don't want mouthfuls of giant pieces of broccoli. Now it will soften after it's been in the dressing for a while, and this makes a lot, so don't worry about the amount of dressing. Scoop that in there. Scoop that in there. Take that off. And we'll just flip it around, do the same thing to this side. What I like about this is that you've got all that fiber from the raw veggies, but it's nicely balanced with acidity and creaminess, a little bit of sweetness from the honey. And it's nostalgic. It's something I grew up with. For me, that's a bonus. All right, I'm gonna add one last bunch of broccoli. And not to worry, these stems will not go to waste. And just a nice rough chop on the broccoli. Grab that in there. And we're going to add some onion to that. Grab our onion. I'm going to scoop off this cutting board into our garbage bowl. Just to get a nice clean surface. There we go. And let's grab our onion. So you have to decide how much onion you like. I really like onion, so I usually put the whole onion in. But if you're not a big onion lover, half to a quarter should do it if you're just looking for that flavor. And we're just gonna keep a large dice on this because I want some texture, but not a ton. Okay, here we go. Put that in there. And side. Piece there. Okay, I think that's good enough. Put that in there. And then you can decide what other things you like to put in. So sometimes I put some dried cranberries in, sometimes I put some raisins in there. So I think today we're gonna put some raisins in there, which don't laugh. I have these little boxes of raisins, which are really great, mostly for my grandson, but also it's nice portion control. You don't have to try and figure it all out. So I'm just gonna put one box of these raisins in there. I like everything today, it doesn't want to come out. Some days are just like that. Sometimes things work easily with you and sometimes they fight you. But today's one of those days where it's fighting me a bit. All right, then we're gonna give it all a mix in these tongs. And it will look like the dressing is not really coating all of it. That's cool, don't worry about it. As the moisture leaks out of the broccoli and as it sits, it will get more liquid. So you don't need to make any more dressing. You are good to go. Now you can get crazy. You can add more crunch to it. You could add some toasted almonds. You could add a number of things you could add to it. Some cut up apples if you like more sweetness. But truthfully, I like it just the way it is. I like it plain. And I like it to at least be made a couple hours in advance so that the flavors have a chance to marry. All right, we're looking good. And now, of course, even though it hasn't had time to really set up a lot, I'm gonna taste it. Making sure I'm happy with it, and I am. I'm gonna wrap this up, pop it in the refrigerator, and we'll have it tonight for dinner. I'll come back and I'll show you more. Here are our carrot fries. They're wonderful on the outside, nice and crunchy, and then soft on the inside. That parboil really helps. If you don't have time, you can go right straight to the air fryer. I'm dipping it in some Marie's blue cheese dressing. Now, you can eat it straight up with the blue cheese dressing as it is, but if you want to cut it with half Greek yogurt, you still get the taste of the blue cheese dressing, but you get an extra punch of protein. Again, it's about the flavor. You want to add, pretend that you're at a restaurant. It always comes with a dipping sauce. Now you're in your home restaurant, you want to have a dipping sauce and make it lovely, and really you want to get to the point where you're looking forward to those vegetables. They're not just something you have to eat. There's something you look forward to eating. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to look forward to eating these because they're delicious. So, let's take a look at our fennel and our onion that's in the oven. It's been in there covered for 30 minutes. We'll take a look at it. All right, looking good. It's nice and bubbly, nice and hot. I'm gonna give it a little stir, which is something you want to do fairly frequently, so you don't get some that are overcooked or some that are undercooked. You want to keep it moving. Okay, we are at a good point. Now, I'm gonna put it back in uncovered for about 10 minutes, and then we're gonna add our liquid and our cheese, and that's what's gonna make it so wonderful. Okay, stick that back in. And while we do that, we're gonna reuse this piece of tin foil, because I'm not a fan of wasting anything, nor am I a fan of cleanup. So, we've got our box grater. I've got my Parmesan cheese. I'm just gonna grate the heck out of this sucker. Now, there's a lot in there, so we're gonna need a significant amount of cheese. Now, the idea is not to add a ton of calories, but you're just trying to get that flavor. I'm looking at about a quarter cup is what I'm looking for. This cheese is very hard. It's Parmesan Reggiano, by the way. Go for the real stuff, don't go for the fake Parmesan. If the cost is an issue, get what you can afford, but if you can afford to spend just a little bit more and use a little bit less, it's totally worth it. Okay, so that's about enough. We'll set that aside for a moment while we grab our liquids. So I'm going to use some unsweetened almond milk along with that cheese, and that's gonna give us a really nice base for that sauce. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside for a second. Let's talk about some mushrooms. Often I see people cooking mushrooms in sort of crazy ways. They In my opinion, and this is just how I like to cook them, I like to keep them what I call seated on the pan. So I start out with no oil. I start out dry on the pan. I keep them in one solid surface so they're not overlapping a whole lot. And then I just let them do their thing. I let them cook down. I salt them a little bit, let them cook down, and then I flip them. And then I add a tiny bit of fat and keep going. In this way, they get really nicely browned and they're just delicious. You can add anything from a little red wine to a little balsamic vinegar, whatever you like, or you can just keep them plain. They're a great addition to any steak, any chicken, whatever it is you like. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me get a pan. Today I'm using shiitake mushrooms. I'm gonna go ahead and get this pan heated. If those of you who have not been with me before don't know, I do not have a gas stove because there is no gas out where I live. I live out in the country. So we are able to only get an induction oven, which is what I have. No big deal, it works great, but it's not my favorite. I would still miss my gas. Okay, so this does heat up fast, so that's the only positive part. We're gonna get those mushrooms in to the best of our extent. We're gonna get them nice and flat so there's not a whole lot of overlapping. There we go. And we're just gonna let them do their thing. Let's sprinkle them with a bit of salt. Did I put my salt? Oh, there it is. And then once they start to brown up a bit, give them a little shaky shake, and then we're gonna add some fat to that. While that's doing its thing, we will let that go for a little bit and I'll come back to you and show you. Okay, our our mushrooms have been cooking a little bit here. You can see they visibly reduced, so we're looking good. And we're not trying to burn them, so we wanna make sure that you keep moving them around. Once they've started to shrink up a little bit, now we're gonna add just a little bit of olive oil. I'm gonna turn it down a bit. Continue cooking. You get that nice bit of caramelization on them. But they still retain some of their shape and their firmness. That's what we're looking for. I'll show you what that looks like. There we go. Beautiful. Now I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to get another pan. And we're going to use up some of the fennel fronds that we had with some sausages, because fennel and sausage go beautifully together. So let me grab those sausages out. And all I'm going to do is take one of these sausages out. I'm going to take it out of this casing. Slice it down there. And we're just going to crumble it up into this pan. I'll use one or two. I don't know. We'll decide. We'll see. One should do it. And then with the back of my knuckle, the part that has not touched anything, I'm going to go ahead and put that on medium. And I'm going to let that cook down. I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be right back. Okay. Member of the Clean Hands Committee again. Okay. So I'm going to go put this in the sink. And we'll break that sausage up. Using our spatula, just break it up a little bit. As it cooks down, it'll be easier to break up, but we want to get at least flat for now. And then we're going to take our fennel fronds. Let me pop that back in. Our fennel fronds again. Now, I obviously am not going to eat all of these because it's a lot. But they wilt down to basically nothing by the time we're done. So, not terribly concerned about how much we have. Got a knife here. And we are just going to go ahead and take these off. And you just pull them off by hand, or you can use the side of your knife and get them off. Sometimes they come off nice and easy, and sometimes they want to be a butt. It's okay. Just keep working on it until you have a nice big pile. And then we're going to roughly chop them and add them in with our sausage. Good, and the rest we can use for a salad or a garnish. There we go. All right, so we'll blot those all together, and we're just gonna give them a rough chop. And then keep on moving this around. And once that starts to leach out a little bit of fat, that's when we'll go ahead and add those prawns. So what this is gonna be, I'm gonna add the Italian sausage, the sauteed fennel prawns, and the mushrooms to a pasta. So it will have lots of great flavor. My pasta water is boiling in the back over there. Can't see it, but it is. And just go ahead and add those fennel prawns in there. They tend to get everywhere, so be prepared. They're so fine that they kind of poof everywhere. We'll let that go. And we'll give that a little bit of a cover. We'll lower that heat just a little bit. We're going to cover that and let that sort of leach out. In the meantime, last thing we're going to do, I've shared with you before that my mom's side is all Lebanese, and it's very common to have squash and eggs. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this yellow squash into the air fryer. It has a little bit of that fennel prawn on it, just from sharing the cutting board, but that's okay, I love flavor. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there. We're gonna add a dash of kosher salt over the top, flavor, that's what we want. And then we're gonna go ahead and add just a drizzle of this olive oil. And we're gonna let that cook down while all of this is doing its thing. And then once it's nice and soft, we'll go ahead and move that to a saute pan and add some eggs and make scrambled eggs with it. It is so good. It's such a great way to start breakfast. You're just gonna love it. Don't knock it till you try it. All right, let me put that in. The pasta's boiling, the mushrooms and fennel prawns and sausage are cooked. Everything's looking fantastic. We're back here with our fennel and our roasted fennel and roasted onions, looking fabulous. The smell is amazing. So if you've ever eaten raw fennel, you know it has a nice licoricey, pretty strong flavor. But when they're cooked, they're nice and mellow and delicious. So right now, I'm gonna go and hit it with that Parmesan cheese that we grated, about a 1/4 cup. And I used the larger whole grater, so that it's a little bit chunkier. I'm gonna go ahead and put that on there. And we're gonna add some almond milk, unsweetened almond milk. You can use heavy cream, you can use almond milk, you can use whatever it is that you like. And you're just gonna put it in there to cover it up a little bit. That's gonna help that cheese make more of a sauce. And we're gonna put that back in the oven until it's nice and bubbly. Yummy, yummy. If you've never had baked fennel, you're gonna love it. All right, so back to the oven it goes. Then I like to hit it with just a little bit more salt. Make sure that we're in good shape. Making sure that all the flavors are going well together. Once our pasta comes together, we'll review everything and I'll show you what it looks like. I transferred the squash to a saute pan, added a little bit of butter, and now it's softening up. You want it to be really soft, okay? So none of the hard edges should be there. It's pretty much overcooked because you wouldn't want to eat it that way, but when you're scrambling with eggs, you don't want it to have a lot of texture. You want it to melt in with the eggs. So we're just gonna keep on cooking it down and keep that on the back burner. We're gonna move our sausage with our fennel prawns and our mushrooms up to the front here. And I'm gonna get that on medium, maybe. Wants to work with me? There we go. And we're gonna add some of that pasta water to it, and that is gonna help us to create a nice little sauce. All right, So we're just gonna stir that right up. Once that comes to a higher temperature, we'll add our pasta in there. Get that good and mixed. We'll transfer us to a bigger pan here. That pan seems to be a bit small. So we're gonna transfer it over. Normally I would start out in a big pan. I have been doing a ton of cooking, so I need the mother load of pans lately. All right, I'm gonna add just a little bit more of that pasta cooking water here. It is just wonderful for making a beautiful sauce. It has that little bit of starchiness left over from the pasta, which is lovely. And let me show you what our, so really hot, it just came out of the oven, what our gratin looks like. So that is our fennel and our onions. There's like grated cheese and a little bit of almond milk, and it's so good. It's almost addicting. And while in between filming, I ate all the carrot fries, so it was a perfect lunch. Okay, now I'm gonna go ahead and toss in my pasta. I won't eat all the pasta I made, so maybe half of it or so. Enough in there. Mixed in. Get that working here. You can see that beautiful fennel fronds all melted down in there. By the way, you can also make a really great pesto with all the fennel fronds. And I do have a lot, so that's probably what I'm gonna do with the rest of it, but. And then once you're at this stage, you can lower the heat just a little bit. And we'll get a big spoon. And we'll give it a little tasty. Make sure it's okay. It's super hot. And use a little more salt. And some fresh pepper. And we're gonna put a little bit of cheese in there, just a tiny bit. Maybe. So just about a tablespoon of cheese across the top there. And melt that right in there just for that little extra. So for me, this is a whole meal, right? You've got your veg, you've got your carbs, your protein, everything's in there. It's delicious. And it doesn't take long at all. So the thing about it is that if you batch cook, you're gonna have a lot of stuff available during the week. And if you don't like to batch cook, it's fine. You just have to do that grocery shopping and plan it as you go. But I love having the dual functionality. So you've got the fennel bulb, and then you've got the fennel fronds, and you can use it in multiple ways. It makes things wonderful. I'm gonna take, now that this is cooled off and it's not molten lava, I'm gonna take a little taste of that fennel. It's so mellow now. You absolutely have to try it. It's so good. Even just baked fennel is delicious, or broiled fennel is delicious. But something magical happens when you pair it with onions and you bake it for a long time, and you add a little bit of cheese. It's so good. All right, we're gonna go back to our squash. I'm gonna add those eggs in now. And look, feel free to make this creative. You don't have to do exactly like me. If you like something else in your eggs, let's say you want to add feta cheese, you do that. You want to add more veggies, do it. The more the merrier. But the idea is that we really want to incorporate yummy veggies. I'm so tired of just looking at, wilted broccoli on people's plate, and they think that's what they have to have in order to be healthy. And that's certainly not the case. We're just going to break those eggs right into there. If you're not confident or you're worried of getting shells, feel free to use a separate bowl. In fact, you probably should. But because I've got enough dishes to do for the next year, I'm going to do it that way. You get a fork. Not rocket science, regular scrambled eggs. I'm not adding any liquid to this because the squash has quite a bit of liquid, and that water from the squash will help the eggs become nice and creamy. Again, you could add cheese, you could add other veggies in there, but I think this is just perfect the way it is. This is how I grew up. And so I love it. This is like a great breakfast for me. So I hope that you try it and that you love it too. Maybe it's something different that your family hasn't tried before. It's really good to get out of the comfort zone and try different dishes. You could try different spices in there. Maybe make it a little bit spicier, add a little touch of cayenne in there or some hot sauce. Extra yummy. You could do it any number of ways. You can do more tomatoes in there and have it more like a Greek omelet. There's so many different ways you can go with it. Some olives, love it, love it. I'm gonna switch over to my spatula. And just keep it moving until you don't have your wetness there anymore. And everything is nice. And this is why it's important to have your squash real soft by the time you add those eggs in there, or they just won't have a chance to cook. Sometimes I shred it so that it cooks really fast in the morning. It just depends. I tend to like a little bit of bite to it so that having the bigger pieces gives you a little bit more to work with. But I'm telling you, if you eat this for breakfast, you will be full for hours. And your workouts will thank you. But this is even great as a quick lunch. You can have it with a little side salad. You can have it just as it is. It is fabulous. Sometimes I add some peppers in there. It just depends. Sometimes some little chunks of ham. But this is how I grew up with it, just plain squash and eggs. There we have it. So you don't want to cook them to death. You want it to have a little bit of moisture still left in there. And let's check it, make sure. Oh yeah, super good. All right, my friends, get those creative juices flowing. Make sure that you hydrate your body. Make sure that you move your body and fuel your body, and keep tuning in. If you have questions, if you have suggestions, I'm always open to them. You can email me, I'll leave it in the show notes, and I look forward to hearing from you. As always, keep in touch with me on social medias. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook, and I have 2 free groups on Facebook. One is called Menopause, Macros, and Movement, and one is called Lean and Clean with Fitness Chef Christine. So easy to find. Come and join me. I love you all. I pray for each and every one of you. I hope you have a great day. And if you feel so moved, I would really appreciate it if you would rate the show, follow along, get involved. It is really appreciated. Share it if you love it. Have a wonderful day. Many blessings.